We ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. After our technical delay, I'm calling our Tippecanoe County Council meeting for June 9th, 2020 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is our auditor's financial report. Bob.
We began 2020 with a general fund cash balance of $12,329,109. With projected miscellaneous revenue, property tax, or 99% of the property tax, and deducting the estimated tax caps, our total available was $62,084,666. If you deduct the encumbrances, the 2020 budget, and the minimum balance set by the council, and then add back in 3% of the budget that we expect to be unspent, our beginning net balance was $1,800,784. We've done $70,000 of additional appropriations so far in 2020, and there are no requests for today. So our available for appropriation is $1,730,784. On the next page of the report is the revenue. With the revenue, 0111 is the lit. That was the first thing I had noted here. I'm not sure if I can see my full screen here. We do have 53% of the money we estimated for 2020, and that is 5 months into the year. We did get that supplemental distribution of $1.25 million that was put into the general fund from balances that the state was holding above what is required by law. So that one is a little bit higher. And just a couple other things to note. I don't really know how I can do to see my little screen over here, but one thing that I noted was under 0322, the health department food permits. I just noted a couple things that with the shutdown was showing some reduced revenues, and we are only 30% of the revenue for food permits at this point in time, which is a little low, but that's kind of understandable. And another one with the health department, 0420, which is vital records, and in terms of vaccinations, that was not being done there for a period of time. So we're only 19% of what we anticipated for the whole year. Another one is fairgrounds rentals. We had anticipated $60,000 for the year. We've got $15,400. The last deposit we had, the last money coming in at all for fairgrounds was in March, and I don't know what the anticipation of that is as we go forward here. So that's what I had for the revenues. We move up into the budgets, or into the cash balances of the funds. The general fund, we have a cash balance of a little bit more than $750,000, and the minimum balance is 7.5. But we will have property taxes that were collected in May will be distributed before the end of this month. So that will go. Next one I noted was units. There was a $1 million special distribution from that excess balance that was put into that fund, so that will the next fund that I had noted was 2580 on the next page. And this is court services. We used to talk about this one every month, and our balance was going up. There was a couple things happening here. That department was all working from home, I believe, the whole month of May. And so there was no money that really was brought in, and we balance of $118,000, but that's why you do want some reserves for things like this. So I believe they're back in the office now, so hopefully that will get back on track. 4710 is the health insurance fund, and we now have a cash balance in that fund of $9.7 million. That's in addition to the $3 million for the health insurance rainy day fund, and that was at least one thing that people weren't going to the doctor, and so it cut back on the expenditures we had. So that did, at least maybe temporarily, bump that up a little bit higher than what it normally would. And the next fund that I marked was 6203 on the next page. And that one is lit property tax relief. And we got a couple things going on there this month. One, there was a special distribution. I think there was a little bit more than $750,000 from that excess balance. That will be used to lower property taxes for all the homestead properties in 2021. The $2.99 million, that was transferred over, because that is now, when we're doing the settlement, that has now been put into the total for collections. And that will be distributed to all the units who receive money. So that is money that's why we get it, is for property tax relief. That is all that I had noted for funds, but if there's any questions?
Any questions for Bob? Hearing none. Our next report is our treasurer's report. Jennifer?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I may just hold it, I'm too short. So for the month of May, we had interest totaling $66,672.01 with $191 million on hand in between bank accounts and investments. And I will point out that compared to last year at this time, even though our settlement collection was a little bit lower than usual, we still have about $11 million on hand more than what we normally would. And I think part of that is the lit distribution, and also I noticed the CUME funds are accumulating, so that would play into that. I'd also say that maybe there was a little bit less spending during the past couple of months. On the distribution sheet, so we're looking at about $500,000 now for the general fund through the year, and I, at the last meeting, I reported that I had revised my estimate to be about $825,000 for the general fund. Of the interest going from the self-insurance to the general fund, we've put about $64,000, diverted that to the general fund so far this year. And then I don't believe I had anything else on the distribution sheet other than to say this was our first full month. Last month we had a CD mature, which paid significant interest. So if you look at May in comparison to any other prior month, you'll see now the drop in dollars of interest with that decline of the interest rate. So then the last page was just to give you an update on where we stand with various items in the office. So what we ended up turning over to the auditor was about an 82% collection, and then for the spring, and then if you look at fall, it was 9.5%. We're today sitting at 84 and 10 respectively. So I do expect payments to continue to trickle in. That's what they've been doing since May 11th. We did have about 4 large manufacturing companies and 2 or 3 shopping centers, which make up a significant difference that I expect will pay by the July 10th deadline now. Stalee Credit Union, we've seen an increase in collections. Luckily, we were able to divert any walk-in taxpayers during the past few months down to Stalee. They had their drive-through open so they could get their paper receipt and pay with cash. So we saw significant increases there. And then online payments as well. So we're tracking to maybe hit, 15, 16 million in online payments as compared to 12.5 million last year. Interest we talked about, and then I wanted to mention P-cards. We are tracking to maybe double what we did last year on P-cards and also on the rebate. So that all is looking well. Fund 4973 on Bob's fund report is showing a negative by more than what we usually see, and that's because we had one large payment of $35,000 on the P-card right at the end of the month, so it was just a timing issue. But we do reconcile those statements every month and know where we're at with that. So are there any questions about any of that?
Any questions for Jennifer?
Nope.
Seeing none. Thank you, Jennifer. Next item is public comment on any agenda items. And I'm not seeing any, so we're going to go ahead and move forward. We've got, first thing is declaratory tax abatement for Dormy LLC Highway Safety Services, SB1.
I don't know who's presenting the substance of it, but just in terms of the procedure, I notice you got two sub-items there. Really, all you'd be doing today is Resolution 2020-18-CL, which is the declaratory resolution. And because you'd be creating this 11-acre economic revitalization area where a tax abatement could take place, the process is you'd pass the resolution, the declaratory resolution, then notice would have to be published, and then at your next meeting, a confirmatory resolution would have to be considered. And so the statement of benefits would be approved as part of that process.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I'd move that we move forward with, as legal as stated in his comments.
So do we need to just do the resolution?
Correct.
Okay.
It's resolution number 2020-18-CL.
I have a motion from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilwoman Vernon, to approve the resolution 2020-18-CL, the declaratory resolution for designation of ERA for Dormy LLC. Comments? Discussion?
Has this gone through the commissioners
So
already, or where are we in this process?
I should have mentioned that because it's in a TIF district, it will also have to get the commissioner's approval. They just say yes or no. You guys are you're the main movers in this thing. They have to give it the green light, but I think the plan would be in between the declaratory and the confirmatory, the commissioners would consider it probably at their next meeting. So that way, I mean, if they were to say no, you wouldn't have to bother with the confirmatory because you couldn't move ahead. But if they say yes, then, I mean, the final decision's really yours.
So who brought this before the council? Whose agenda item is this?
Dormy LLC submitted an application, so I
Okay.
prepared the resolution.
And there's nobody here from Dormy LLC?
Yeah. Dan Teeter's their representative, but I don't know. Is he?
Is he?
Okay.
I think one of the questions I have is, so this is on the track 2, and currently it says the current number of jobs is 26 jobs. So I guess my number one question, is there a building on that piece of property already that isn't being showed on this track? And number 2, where are those 26 employees, are they moving to this facility? Mm-mm.
No.
No.
I can hear them way down there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and try it.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
You're getting feedback. Yeah, turn yours off.
Paula, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can I go ahead?
They can hear you.
Paula, may I proceed?
Yes, sir.
All right. Dan Teeter. I'm an attorney with Riley, Teeter, and Schreier. I represent the petitioner. Can you hear me? Paula, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, Paula, can you hear me? Should I proceed?
Yes.
May I proceed? Yes, sir. All right. Again, with Riley, Teeter, and Schreier, I represent the petitioner. Mike Madrid is present this morning. He's both the petitioner and the owner. He'd be happy to respond to any comments or questions that you might have. Obviously, you have before you our application and resolution. This 11-acre tract. This 11-acre tract is part of a larger 44-acre tract, as you can see on the screen. We are on County Road 500 East, just south of County Road 400 South. A petitioner started his highway safety service business in 2005. The business provides traffic control and paving marker services for roads, for bridges, airports, and other related facilities. The business also has an in-house sign shop and makes signs for traffic signs for their business as well. They do business throughout the state of Indiana. They're presently located in leasing space on Imperial
a square foot, and that's a reasonable cost for construction for this type of project in Tippecanoe County. The proposed development is going to aid the retention of their current employees and allow Mike to hire up to 10 employees over the next 5 to 7 years. He also believes the development will cause the business to be more efficient, and as a result, there'll be more revenue and there'll be more profit for the business. He hopes to maintain and increase employee wages as a result of this, and they also have health and retirement benefits that will be given to the employees, or continue to be given to them. He also significant amounts of money on an annual basis, both for equipment and for vehicles as well. Mike spent over 40 years in this business. He started at the Indiana Department of Transportation in West Lafayette. He then owned Mike Madrid Company for 17 years, and he sold that to a large national company. His highway safety service business again started in 2005. He has many prestige customers, including Purdue, Milestone, Reith Riley, just to name a few of the very many. We believe the approval of this resolution will greatly benefit petitioner's business opportunities not only for the present, but for the future as well. We would request your approval of this resolution. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Jody?
Sure did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions or comments related to this resolution?
And we're approving this resolution so that we can eventually give them a tax abatement? Is that the reason we're, just to be
Yes.
clear, that I understand that? And if we don't approve the resolution, then we couldn't offer them a tax abatement? Okay. But approving this resolution does not mean that we are going to give them a tax abatement. That's another request that comes in separately.
Well, the request is the same, but the next step is to publish notice to the public saying that this might happen, and then
Okay.
presumably at your next meeting, you would either grant the tax abatement or not.
Because we did this last year, we granted a tax abatement, and I don't remember doing the resolution beforehand, but,
Right, you're remembering correctly. The
Okay.
issue there was an ERA had already been designated, so that property area was already eligible for tax abatements. It was just a new project being submitted. In this case, it's a new tract of land being considered.
and they're building on which tract?
2.
2, but we're going to make 1, 2, and 3, the whole thing eligible, or just tract 2?
Just 2.
Thank you.
They haven't split 2 off yet.
Okay.
That should be happening probably before the end of this month.
Any other comments? Do we need a roll call or just a normal voice vote?
It's a normal voice
Okay.
vote.
All right, well then, if I don't see any other discussion or hear any, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of Resolution 2020-18-CL, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That resolution passes. Thank you. Thank you. Now we have several compliance of statements of benefits. First up is Apex Warehouse and Logistics LLC, CF1 and Real Estate. We have 3 forms from them. Can we do all 3 in one motion, or do we need to keep them separate?
You can do all 3 if you want. And just a reminder of what the process is here. They're required to submit their compliance. You are permitted to review it, which you are doing. If you were to determine, you could do nothing and the tax abatement would continue as is. You can determine that they're not in compliance, which triggers a new step, which means you'd have to send them notice saying why you didn't think they were in compliance, and then there'd be a formal hearing that would proceed. Or you can say, yes, they're in compliance, and that.
Okay. Based upon that information, do I have a motion to accept the statement of benefits CF1s for Apex Warehouse and Logistics.
Mr. President, I move to approve the 3 Apex Warehouse and Logistics LLC compliances for real property.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Murray to accept the statement of benefits from Apex Warehouse and Logistics LLC, the 3 forms that we have from them. Any discussion concerning that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Those are approved. Next up, we have Liquid Springs Partners LLC. We have 2 for the real property, and then also 2 for the personal property for them. And I'll take the 2 for the real property. It's probably better to keep those separated. Or does it really matter?
It's entirely up
Again,
to
it's
you.
totally up to us.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Pre, oh, go ahead.
I'll second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray to accept the statement of benefits for Liquid Spring Partners LLC real property, 2 forms. Any discussion?
And you can see on there, but like they had 23 employees. On the statement of benefits, they promised to add 8, and they've added 49. So
Right.
they have clearly exceeded what they had promised for the other.
Right. Thank you, Bob, for pointing that out. Any other comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Those are approved. Liquid Spring LLC, the personal property forms.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Liquid Spring LLC CF1 personal property 2 forms.
I second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the personal property CF1 forms for Liquid Spring LLC. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those are approved. Next is SMT Properties LLC, 1 for personal property.
I'll make a motion that we approve the SMT Properties LLC CF1/real property.
I second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the SMT Properties LLC CF1 real property form. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That one is also approved. GIO3 Holdings LLC personal property CF1 form.
Make a motion that we approve the GIO3 Holdings LLC CF1 personal property.
I second.
Got a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the GIO3 Holdings LLC CF1 personal property form. Discussion.
And that is connected to the Allstate Fastener one, that is the same project. They're both, if you notice the employee count, they are the same employee numbers, it is the same property, really.
So on this one, they said they were going to have 20, but they only had 17, is that correct? But then on their real estate statement, they had 20 and they actually have 27. Is that a matter of just they moved them to different accounts, or is it?
I would also say this is a newer abatement, and so maybe they are not fully
Okay, up to speed.
employed yet, and I'm not sure if there's anybody on the line here that, from there to answer that, but Pamela Meyer.
Pamela Meyer is the name on the form,
But sometimes that's not the person who would appear.
who is actually
Yeah,
going to.
usually it's the same job number on both of them, is usually the case.
You don't know who that would be, who the person would
Trent from Greater Lafayette Commerce
Okay.
may be able to answer that. I know he's on.
Is Trent on?
Yeah, I saw him on earlier.
Yeah.
Why the two forms have different employee number expectations?
On the actual, one is saying 27 on the current number of employees, and one is saying 17 for GIO 3 Holdings.
I think you guys must have an old form because I have submitted an updated form and they both should show, the ones I have show 27 and 27.
One shows 27 what?
It should be 27 and 27 on both.
Okay.
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 I remember he's corrected. And Meyer, who is, she can speak to that as well. If you need me to send updated forms, I can send them to you guys. But they should read the same of 27 and 27. They should have 27 actual, they should have retained their 20, and then they have added 7 since the project started. But the goal is still adding 10 when the
Okay.
project is finished.
Right. Okay.
And on the old form, if you take the
Yeah.
retained employees and additional employees, it's 27.
Correct.
So,
So that's
yeah.
the correct number then.
yes.
Does that make sense to everyone? Yep. Okay. So based upon that information, do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Then we have GIO 3 Holdings LLC Real Property CF1 form.
I'll make a motion that we approve GIO 3 Holdings LLC CF1 Real Property.
I second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the GIO 3 Holdings LLC CF1 form for real property. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That one also is approved. Then last is the Allstate Fastener of Indiana CF1 form for the personal property, excuse me.
I'll make a motion that we approve Allstate Fastener of Indiana CF1 personal property.
I second.
Got a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the CF1 personal property form for Allstate Fastener of Indiana. Discussion.
I would assume this is a old form as well, since the numbers, they should also match the two previous ones that we had.
Prior. Yep. So it should be the 27,
Right.
7 added or 10 and 7. I got my numbers all backwards. Should be same.
27, 20, and 7.
20 and 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That one is also approved. Next up is our consent agenda. So we have the approval of the minutes and the transfer for the prosecutor. Anything that needs to be removed? Or do we want to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Basham, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Additional appropriations. First up is the sheriff. Inmate Medical Copay Fund, 4719.
I'll make a motion that we approve the inmate medical copay fund 4719 appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilman Basham, to approve the Inmate Medical Copay Fund 4719 in the amounts presented. Sheriff. Come on, Bob.
That was Bob Plantinga's fault.
Yes.
It just funds the inmates paying, obviously it's co-pays, it's just to transfer it over so we can pay our medical bills.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none or hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next is the CLAF Burn Law Enforcement Fund 9144 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the CLAF Burn Fund Law Enforcement Fund 9144 appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilman Basham, to approve the Burn Law Enforcement Fund 9144 in the amount of $7,062.
What we're doing here is trying to create more manpower. We're trying to have a special deputy program. We have one now that will put our jailers in a position to be able to transport prisoners, sit with them at the hospital, and do those things so we can keep deputies on the streets, because a lot of our time's spent sitting in a hospital. This will allow us to do that. We were moving forward until COVID happened, just like everybody else, but this money will be used for those things.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved. Next up is Community Corrections. Community Correction User Fee Fund 1122 CF 20.
I move we approve Community Correction User Fee Fund 1122 CF 20 as presented.
Second that?
I've got a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Community Corrections User Fee Fund 1122 CF 20 for $100,000. I saw Jason on the list there earlier. Is he? Yeah. Scroll up, I believe. There's Jason. Unmute him.
Do you have a phone?
John. You want to do the highway? You want to do the highway?
You want me?
Yeah.
Jason, are you there? Can you hear us?
Well, there's lots of chance.
Does that get a big thumbs up back there?
He's got to write it really big and put on the screen.
Yeah. Yes. What's Jason say on his paper? He can't hear us. Is Bob muted? That's right. It's like, how did that happen? How is it we're having so many technical issues this meeting? We didn't have nearly as many the last time around.
Yeah, I don't have any committee report either.
Okay.
I'm going to be cutting out.
Yeah, if you gotta go, you gotta go. If it weren't for all the technical problems, we would have been done with this.
Yeah, we would have been.
So when Max asks for a pay raise, you guys might want to consider it.
There you go.
So is Jason, go ahead, Jason. Oh, that's a nice sound.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Several of us have lost audio from the feed, so there's some people I can't hear.
You do all the highway.
Okay,
I may be here to second it.
that's fine.
Turn it on long enough to, Jason, go ahead and tell us about the appropriation, please.
This is just an appropriation to, for expenses for electronic monitoring as well as our uniforms for our work release participants. So we're just transferring that, the user fees to this account to cover those expenses.
Okay. Any further discussion? Unmute us, Bob. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is approved. Next is Highway, MVH, Restricted Fund 1173 appropriation.
Motion to approve the MVH Restricted Fund 1173 appropriation for the amount stated.
John?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham to approve the MVH Restricted Fund 1173 appropriation in the amount of $212,221. Stu? You need to unmute yourself.
I like this, man.
This is simply the $212,221 is simply a payment from the NDOT. It's reimbursement for design and right-of-way payments that we've made, so it's reappropriating it back into there.
Okay. Any questions for Stuart? Turn the mic on.
Mic is now on. Now I'm really not muted.
Oh, yes. All right. Any other questions? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved. Cume Bridge Fund 1135, reduction.
Motion to approve the Cume Bridge Fund 1135 reduction for the amount stated.
Second that.
Got a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham for the Cambridge Fund 1135 reduction of $80,000 for repair and maintenance. Discussion.
I might say that on the request, the one that we're looking at doesn't have a reduction on it, but
Basically, we're just moving money from that over to the
it doesn't have
construction and
it doesn't have
reconstruction,
a
correct,
reduction
Stu?
on that.
Exactly. We're taking money, we're reducing professional services so we can do more capital improvement.
Right.
But your form
Does
didn't
that make
say
sense to everyone? So we're just basically
Yeah.
taking out of here, out of this bucket, so we can put it in this
I'm
bucket.
just saying the form did not state reduction.
Right.
Right, it doesn't. Nope.
It's up at the top.
Oh, it
Yeah,
says
it's at the
that.
top of
top.
the purpose. For use.
Yeah.
I was looking for a negative number,
reduction.
but,
Yeah, I was too,
Yeah.
also.
yeah.
It's on,
Request for reduction.
granted.
Okay. Now that we're all clear, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved. Now we have the appropriation for 1135.
Motion to approve the Cambridge Fund 1135 appropriation as the amount stated.
Second?
Got a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham to approve the appropriation for Cambridge Fund 1135 in the amount of $80,000 for construction and reconstruction. Discussion.
This just takes that $80,000 and makes it available to use for capital payments for bridge.
And is that because you found you had additional expenses you needed with the bridge, or you just didn't need as much in other professional services?
We don't have enough money, so we're giving up professional services in order to pay for the
Pay
bridges.
for the bridge, okay.
It's kind of which is the worst to need.
Yeah, okay,
Professional services is planning, capital is we're building.
okay.
Putting out the fire that's most hot right now.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved. Now, LRS Fund 1169 reduction.
Motion to approve LRS Fund 1169 reduction for the amount stated.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham, to approve the LRS Fund 1169 reduction in the amount of $254,367 for LRS maintenance. Discussion.
It's the same type of a situation. In this case, we're taking the money out of what we had budgeted towards new machinery, and we're moving it over for roadway capital improvement.
Okay. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved. LRS Fund 1169 appropriation.
Motion to approve LRS Fund 1169 appropriation for the amount stated.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham for the LRS Fund 1169 appropriation of $254,367 for construction and reconstruction. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion is approved. Thank you, Stu. Next up, Health. CDBG COVID-19 Assistance Fund 8901, fiscal year 21.
I move we approve CDBG COVID-19 Assistance Fund 8901 for fiscal year 21 in the amount of $100,000.
Second.
So this is the Okra grant and
Hold on just a second, Kayla.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Basham, to approve the Health Department CDBG, gosh, we got the whole alphabet practically, COVID-19 Assistance Fund 8901, fiscal year 21, in the amount of $100,000. Now,
Okay, so
please.
75,000 groceries and prescriptions that we have to pick up when you put someone in quarantine or isolation. If they don't have a way to get food or medicine, we legally have to provide that. And so with COVID-19, we've had to provide that quite a bit. And then the 25 just for mileage. Any questions?
Questions? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you.
Do you want to do the next one?
Next up, Do It, LIT GIS Fund 1112 appropriation.
Everybody wants to do it, yeah.
I move we approve LIT GIS Fund 1112 in the amount of $8,460.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Dolam, for the Do It LIT/GIS Fund 1112 in the amount of $8,460. Kent.
This is the final installment of the professional services we used to bridge the gap between a termination last year and the start of an employee this year in our GIS department.
Okay. Any other questions for Kent? Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved. Auditor, Ineligible Homestead Fund 1216 appropriation.
Motion, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jody.
Motion to approve ineligible homestead fund 1216 appropriation with the amount stated.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Basham for the auditor ineligible homestead fund 1216 appropriation in the amount of $25,000.
And this is kind of to redo the front of the office. When people come in, we have generally had people come to people's desks, and with the COVID-19 concerns, we wanted to change that up a little bit. So to make a front counter, we've got a little makeshift counter right now. But I think plans to do something in our office, Jennifer had plans written up when she was auditor back 6 years ago. So this is something that we have considered for a long time. And now this should be CARES Act reimbursable, so we'll pay for it out of our ineligible homestead funds, and we should be receiving all that money back. And it should be a big improvement. So we will have glass, and we will have people coming in, at least at this point, standing at the front counter to reduce the risk that we have there.
Okay. Other discussion?
Trying to keep me out?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought about that.
Yes. Quite
I'm up there
frankly,
every day.
yes. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved. Committee reports. No committee reports. Unfinished new business. Our budget hearings. Any new information or anything that we need to report there, Bob?
Well, we have sent out the budget forms to the various departments and the salary statement and the budget requests, and we asked to have those back by July 1. Statutorily, we have to have the salary statements back because we have to present those to the commissioners the first meeting in July. So we have received some forms back, and we've got a ways to go, and tried to let people know that, we are seeing potential, at least a couple % less revenue for the general fund than what we had for 2020. So even with the 0% pay increase, that's not going to take care of, potential shortfalls of revenue, because we are very reliant on income taxes. And so it is going to be a difficult budget hearing. And so we've asked the departments, try and help us out and come up with if they have any budget cuts, and try and think outside the box. What can they do to help things going into the budget hearings that we'll be handling in August?
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Commissioner FYI. Commissioner Brown.
Not a great deal to report this morning, other than the fact that we are, all of our buildings are open, still somewhat of a restricted schedule at the courthouse, but it's as normal as we have been in the last 10 weeks. And I think things are progressing well on both the Fairgrounds project and the Y project. Get a chance to get out there and have a look at it, moving quickly, especially if you get into that Y building and see that now that it's all opened up and everything. So, thank you.
Commissioner, thank you, and thank you to Tony Dildine and the maintenance crew for the lights, the orange lights, to honor Gun Violence Week last week. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Public comment from Facebook. Margaret Haas. I'm a bit confused about what the money for the sheriff's office is going to. If it's for staffing, why is it listed as machinery, equipment, ? What is the CLAF burn fund for exactly? And then I would also like to know how the county council intends to include law enforcement accountability in the plans to spend public safety tax revenues.
I'm not sure why it says machinery and equipment, but it's a, do what? All right. The burn fund is for equipment, and that's what it's going for. Why it says machinery and equipment, I don't have any idea, but that burn fund is to go for, burn law enforcement fund is to go for equipment, firearms, gun belts. That's all fits the criteria for that fund. Can't speak on the lit money part. You have another one?
Okay.
I'm Susan Schechter. I live at 1001 Ferry Street in Lafayette. And this body allocates funds from the general fund, more than half for public safety, law enforcement. In the past 2 weeks, our country and our county have had demonstrations, you're all familiar with them, to object to police brutality that was focused on Minneapolis, but it's a problem throughout the country. And so my perception, I've seen the police in action, and they are good at de-escalating situations, and they're very professional. So I'm comparing that to statistics generated by the ACLU that say that in Tippecanoe County, a black person is 5.7 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana than a white person. And that's on a per capita basis. So I ask myself, and I think the county council should be asking themselves, are Tippecanoe taxpayers funding systemic racism? I don't know how to get at that, and hopefully you do know how to answer that question, because it's a question we should answer. So that's one. Number two, there have been discussions throughout the country about what to do about policing, and there is a consensus coming out in certain communities that to rebalance public safety money from policing, so our police officers are responding to family conflicts and mental illness and homelessness and drug addiction problems. And maybe that's not the appropriate community resource to be responding to these issues. So what can we do locally to rebalance the effort to respond to really social issues as opposed to criminal law enforcement issues, and take the police out of that situation of having to respond to all of our problems? That's it. Thank you. If so, you got the two questions?
I don't think it fits.
Anything else? Okay.
So can I make a comment while we're waiting to get to the public comment?
Sure.
So I had a couple things. One is I'd like to acknowledge that last week we had an election, and it was a very unusual election, and people worked really hard. So I would like to thank everyone that worked on that election and acknowledge the hard work. I also want to acknowledge that 9,000 people voted by mail in Tippecanoe County, so I hope that we will continue to offer that option as a state. I realize that's a state decision, and I hope that the state relooks at the deadline for when absentee ballots need to be arrived, 12 o'clock on Election Day, when we've got we have issues at the post office is not a good way to ensure that everyone's vote counts. The second of all, I want to acknowledge that we've had a lot of protests in this country. Here in Tippecanoe, there's a lot of interest in what we are doing as a county around policing. I've heard a lot of that myself, and probably you've heard of that and you've wondered what's going on. So I hope we as a council and as a county think about how we let the people know what we're doing. I know that Commissioner Brown has sent out some emails. I hope that gets, and I'm sure that Sheriff Goldsmith has done something similar. I'm hoping that we let people in the community know what we're doing, because I think we are doing some good work, and we can always learn and to do better, but I think there's a lot of people that don't know what we're doing when I talk to people. And even I have a lot to learn as well. I know that as a counselor, I am going to look at the public safety money and make sure that that money that we are getting is going to go to helping people and not punishing people. I want to really help people, so I'm committed to doing that as a counselor.
Comment from Erica Foster. Her comment is directly related to Susan's comments as well regarding what is our county's next step to move forward to support our police via allocating funds to social services.
Okay, any further comments? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for the last motion.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.